Hey, what's up, guys? It's Javo back again. I'm doing another video for my devlog for my new football game. It's called Football Stars, and it's an indie game that I'm making for a top-down football game. There are a lot more details that I haven't really been able to share with you guys, but it will be a sim slash arcadey game, but it's going to be a lot of fun and a game that I, as a sim football player, will like to play. So I think that you guys will enjoy it as well. Now, I'm way off before the game's even close to being released, so this is just the very, very early prototyping stages. I haven't really worked on it much over the past month since my last video, but I've uh, I've had a little bit of time in between, and I wanted to share with you guys my latest update. So what you're seeing here is the art that a guy by the name of Matthews made for me. He runs a site called 8-Bit Football. He makes really, really, really cool pixel art, and I think you guys would enjoy him. But he made me a second version of the pixel art, and it looks like this. So it's kind of a little bit more retro style, like an NES, Super NES style. And I like it. I mean, it's he made these front and back views of the player, and I actually created this one on my own last night, just messing around because I'm trying to learn how to do art myself to see if I can do some of the artwork. But I'm a one-man person right now working on this game part-time. My passion, obviously, would be able to do this full time and have this be my project that I do to see if I can make it as an indie developer. But that's more of a dream. And hey, maybe one day I can take the plunge and do it. So we'll see. Don't we all want to be developers, right? Indie developers, yeah. I'd love to. But moving on. So let me know what you guys think about this art style. I like it. I don't know if it's going to be the style that I end up choosing for the game. Obviously, the game has a lot more to go when it comes to mechanics and programming and actually building the gameplay and the entire game itself. So there's time. Art is something that you can put in later down the road. I like to see the art early because I'm impatient and I want to see something that looks like a game. But I also have learned in the past from working on previous prototype games that if you focus on the art too early, then number one, you can waste money and time and resources. And then number two, if you don't finish the game, then, like I said, all that money is just wasted, all the time's wasted, and you may not even have chosen the right art for your game because the game's not really even something you can actually, use and see. So the better approach is to start coding the game, start building the game, and have placeholders for your art. And then when you get your art, then the fun becomes dropping the art in and filling in the holes that you have for your game. And then just with one fell swoop, you can have a game that actually looks like a real game. So I'm going to try to be as patient as I can be, but I am trying to learn how to make pixel art, and I'd like to make a decision on what kind of art style that I would like to go with. So let me know what you guys think about these two art styles. This is a little bit more of a Super NES look. This is more of a Nintendo slash Neo Geo look to me, but basically, the art doesn't even have to be anything like this either. I'm not sure what the art will end up looking like. There's actually a site, a game that I wanted to show you guys called Copanito Soccer. And this game has different art styles as well. I mean, I'm not in love with these art styles, but it just shows you that you can really have any kind of art style, and the games could actually look, fun and still really enjoyable. This game's on Steam. I don't know if they have it on mobile or not. I think that they may, but I'm not sure. But you can see that this is another type of art style, which is more of a cartoony art style that I may or may not look at down the road, but it's something that we can think about, and maybe I can land on something that's a little bit more cartoony, more fictional. I like the 8-bit pixel art because that's just my love from back in the day. I like pixel art. I grew up playing Nintendo, so that's something that I would really enjoy having in my game. But for like I said, it just depends. It depends on what artist I end up finding, what kind of art style looks like it might be the right fit for the game, and then we'll go from there. But I'd love to hear your comments on what art style you guys think would be nice for the game, and then we can go from there. Okay, moving on to the actual game, right? So basically this, just to recap from the last video I did, or the last couple I did, I was working on having physics in the game. And when you're building a game using GameMaker, you can go one of two routes. You can go with using physics, or you can go without using physics. And when you don't use physics, you basically have to code everything to make it look like it's physics, right? So like when you see a 2D side-scrolling platformer game, when you see the guy jump in the air and then jump down or hit a wall and bounce off, almost guaranteed that's not using physics. That's just somebody who coded it to look realistic, right? And after doing a lot of research and playing around with the physics, I decided to not do physics. Problem with it was that, well, the good things about it, which is why I used it, was because everything, all of the real-time physics and interactions basically happen without you having to code anything. So like collisions, or if I'm running at a certain speed and I hit a guy that's running at a certain speed with a certain mass on each player, then there'll be a realistic, if you have your settings right, you'll see a realistic collision, and people will typically move and bounce a certain way. Problem with the physics is that a few things. Number one, everything has to be done by force if you want to do physics correctly, right? So with the physics turned on, you want to push players a certain way, you want to push the ball a certain way, and that doesn't really always look the most realistic. Okay, so it starts to screw up the way your game looks, and then it becomes really hard to code to tone all of that physics down and make it run like a realistic looking game. Case in point, Backbreaker. Backbreaker was a great game built off of what? Physics, right? Now, it had a lot of potential, but the downside is you had a lot of those floaty, space, non-gravity looking plays where guys would do these crazy flips and tackles and sliding across the field for 20 yards. I mean, just crazy looking weird space stuff, right? That's the downside. Another thing too is I was trying to get the football to be thrown correctly, and it was not working right. It didn't look right because the game's top down. It's not sideways. And in GameMaker, for those of you guys who are interested, you have an X and Y axis, right? X and Y, right? And you don't have really a Z. And Z is that 3D piece, right? So with a platformer, it's fine because your gravity falls straight down from the Y axis. It falls down, right? But in a top down, you flip it. Now you're looking top down. There is no gravity. There's no Z, right? The Z that was here, there's no Z. So you have to kind of fake it with what they call friction and slowing it down. And using that with physics, the gravity just doesn't work right. It doesn't look right. And one thing I was running into as well were the routes, right? So when you look at the routes, I had the guys running the routes properly without physics. So when I turned them on, that broke. So after doing a little bit of research, watching a guy out there that's a really, really good source of information for GameMaker, his name's Sean Spalding, he basically made a video saying the only way that he recommends to use physics in GameMaker is if you're making a game that's all about physics, okay? Like if you're making like Little Big Planet, where that game was 100% made to show off the physics of the PS2 back then, right? And the game was all about physics. If you knock over something, everything falls over. Just like Angry Birds, right? Angry Birds, you hit the objects in the game, and things fall down and move a certain way. And that's when you want to use physics. If your whole entire game and the concept of your game is to be basically physics based, mine really isn't, right? So mine isn't that kind of a game. It's not a scientific physics type of game. Okay, so that's what made the final decision. So I had to spend a lot of time actually reverting back to the non-physics way, and I also started to redo my game and start from the ground up. What I mean by that is I wanted to start with moving a player around and having him move around realistically. I refactored my code. I set things up differently. I want to get a better foundation for the code now that I've learned more about GameMaker. So I spent some time doing that. So this is my last video. I've been doing a lot of things that you guys really can't see. But the one thing that I did is I worked on momentum, right? The difference between Madden and All Pro Football, or one of the differences that I totally love All Pro Football for, is that when you have a guy running one direction and then he turns back to the other direction, he doesn't just automatically turn back, right, and zigzag around, right? He's got momentum. So when you're running to the right, you can't just do a 180 and go back to the left without any sort of lag there, right? Stumbling, whatever you want to call it. So the way I had this program before is I had it to where they were doing that. They were moving around really quick and fast, and it was like, now I have it to where if I go directly back and forth, see how he slows down? See how he slows down before he starts going again? So he has a little bit of slowdown. And I can adjust these values based on the player stats, right? I'm putting in real stats in this game and abilities similar to how 2K did it and All Pro Football did it, right? So if you're going forward and you want to turn back, you have to slow down. You want to turn up, you got to slow down, right? If you want to go side to side, it's a little bit easier, but there's a little bit of lag now when you try to go back and forth. The one thing that I want to clean up, though, if you guys notice, is it's kind of like UFO-y, like floaty a little bit. He floats around, but it doesn't look that bad, right? And this animation, guys, is just a placeholder, so don't get stuck on it. This is just me messing around. I did it with both of these two players here. I put my own animation in just to have something moving around, but that's not the end of the game result, right? That's just me putting a placeholder there. But what I also worked on that I wanted to show you is the football throwing in the air. Last time, the way that I had the football basically going just straight, didn't look right, didn't bounce, kept going forever, or just stopped. And now I wanted to work on it looking more realistic, bouncing on the floor, and having just a more realistic look to it. So now when I throw it, see, it looks more realistic now. It actually goes in the air, and it kind of floats up in the air a little bit, and then it hits the floor, it bounces, and it bounces in somewhat of a random direction, right? Makes it look pretty damn realistic. It's funny because coding this stuff, you don't really find a lot of tutorials online. For those of you guys that are interested in developing a sports game, that's why I give props to guys like Danny Jugan and the Canuck folks that are making that football game. You have to really, really do a lot of homework to find out how to do some of this stuff, because most games are 2D platformers, first-person shooters, RPG type games, and there's not a lot of this mechanics in there. So there's no information on the internet, right? So to get the ball to fly like that, to hover up like that, to bounce like that, and I need to do some tweaking on it and obviously make it look better. I wanted to stop at the cursor. Right now it's flying the same distance no matter what and the same trajectory, but this is just a prototype so I can get the bounce mechanics working, right? But basically, to figure this out, there's nowhere to learn this stuff because nobody's making sports games and showing how they do it on the web, right? I can throw it to this guy, and if it hits him, it'll make it. But if I throw it over him, say it goes right over him, right? It won't catch it. But I have it to where if it's low enough, he'll catch it. See that? But what I was trying to say was that I learned this from going on the forums, doing some homework, and there's a guy out there on the GameMaker forums, that a real nice guy that came out and helped me out, and he's making an Australian football game, and he figured it out. So I'm going to be running into a lot of obstacles where I have to do the math, and just the more I learn, the better I get. And this tip was very helpful for me to understand this stuff. I'm not a game maker pro. I've worked on Unity, and I'm very familiar with C#, but more from a business standpoint. Building web applications and things for corporate America. This stuff is a whole different take, simulation based, and so it's going to take some time. But that's it. I don't want to take too much more of your time. It's a long video. I hope that you enjoyed it. There'll be more to come. I told you guys I'd be doing a video every week or so, but that's probably too short because I don't make a lot of progress in a week's time. But as I start to get more progress and have new things to show, I will be sharing the game. If you have any feedback for me on the art style, like which direction I should go, I'm probably making it a top-down game. People have mentioned about doing a Tech Mobile side view. I like Tech Mobile, great game, but it was more like snaking around and just trying to find like your path to get through everybody, and you really couldn't see the field the way that you can see it here. And I'm going to end up I'm pretty sure it's going to be top down, but it's going to really look nice. So hang in there on that piece. And if I end up going, side view down the road, maybe I will, but we'll see. So yeah, feedback on the art style: cartoony, pixel, SNES, NES, even better than that. Tell me what you guys think. And yeah, or like just like the Copanito game, whatever you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the mechanics here. But I'm going to be working more on the movement, the throwing, before I start adding in more players and more pieces to the game. So I'll be showing that off when I get further. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please leave your comments. Subscribe if you haven't, if you're interested. And I'll be doing more videos. So thanks for watching, and take care. Peace.